There are 7 versions of your life hidden inside one number, your net worth. At one level, a flat tire is a crisis that wrecks your whole month. At another, you own things you'll never even see in person. We're going to climb all 7 levels, one at a time, from $1,000 to 10 million, and watch exactly how your life changes at each one. But here's the strange part. The jump that changes your life the most isn't the one you'd ever guess, and it's nowhere near the top. Let's get one thing straight before we start climbing. Money is not one single thing that you simply have more or less of. It changes what it is at every level. $1,000 and $10 million aren't the same substance in different amounts. They buy completely different lives, and the thing they're actually buying, the thing that changes as you climb, probably isn't what you think. It's not the cars. It's not the houses. We'll see those. But they're a side effect. What actually changes, rung by rung, is a single invisible thing. How much control you have over your own life. At the bottom, life happens to you. Other people decide your hours, your stress, whether you can say no. At the top, you decide. That's the real ladder. Everything else is just the scenery around it. So let's start at the bottom, at the level where the scenery is a constant, low-grade fear. You have $1,000 to your name. And I want to be respectful here, because a huge number of people are living exactly this, and it is not a character flaw. It's a trap that's genuinely hard to climb out of. At this level, you are one bad day away from a crisis. The car breaks down. A tooth starts hurting. Your kid needs shoes. And any one of those small, ordinary events becomes an emergency because there's no cushion underneath you. So you borrow a credit card, an overdraft, a payday loan, and now the trap tightens because the interest on that debt eats the little money you had, which means you can never get ahead of it. This is the most expensive level to be at. Read that again. Being broke is expensive. You pay more for everything, in fees, in interest, in the cheap thing you have to replace twice. But the real weight of this level isn't the money. It's the mental tax, the constant background hum of what if something goes wrong, running in your head every hour of every day. Climbing off this rung isn't about getting rich. It's about buying silence from that hum. And the first bit of silence costs surprisingly little. $10,000. On paper, that's not much. But the change is enormous because for the first time, there's a floor under you. The flat tire is now an annoyance, not a catastrophe. You can absorb one bad thing without the whole structure collapsing. That hum in the back of your mind, it gets quieter. Not gone, quieter. And that quiet is the first real thing money buys you. Now let's climb to $100,000. And this is a level worth slowing down for, because something mathematical happens here. There's a famous line from Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie Munger. He said the first $100,000 is the hardest, and after decades of a channel like this, it holds up, because getting to 100,000 is almost entirely you. Your saving, your discipline, dollar by dollar, with barely any help from growth. But at 100,000, the math quietly shifts. A good year in the market can now add $10,000 an amount that used to take you a year of saving to produce. Your money is starting to work a real shift alongside you. You're still doing most of the lifting, but for the first time, you're not lifting alone. Here's the honest gut punch, though. $100,000 in net worth is still below the American median of around $190,000. You'd feel wealthy compared to where you started and still be in the middle of the pack, which tells you something about the level almost everyone pictures when they think rich. So let's go there next. $500,000. Now the scenery genuinely changes. This is a paid down home, a serious retirement account, real investments throwing off real growth. At this level, in a good year, your money can earn more than a lot of people earn at their jobs without you lifting a finger. Your past savings have quietly gone to work full time, and then you cross it. $1 million. The number, the word, millionaire. This is the level the entire internet is built to make you crave. The one with the confetti and the champagne and the big green text. And here's the twist nobody puts in the thumbnail. At $1 million of net worth, you are almost certainly not living the millionaire fantasy. Because that million isn't a swimming pool full of cash. It's mostly your house and your retirement account that you cannot and should not spend. Being a millionaire in real life usually looks like a paid-off house in an ordinary neighborhood and the quiet freedom of not lying awake about money. We did a whole video on this, the millionaire next door who looks exactly like everyone else. Almost 1 in 5 American households has crossed this line. They just don't look like it because real wealth is silent. But you didn't click on a video that stops at 1 million. So let's climb to the levels almost nobody reaches where the money finally stops looking normal. $5 million. This is the level where work becomes optional, where, invested sensibly, your money can generate a comfortable living entirely on its own, potentially forever. You've crossed into the top few percent of households in the country. The mental hum from level 1, it is now completely, permanently gone. Money is simply no longer a source of fear in your life. And now, $10 million. This is genuine wealth. The top of our ladder, and the edge of the top 1%, which in America begins north of $11 million. At this level, money stops being something you spend and becomes something you deploy. It buys businesses. It buys time. It buys the ability to never think about a price tag again. This is the level of the private world, the things most people will never see. And yes, this is where the fantasy finally becomes real. But now that we've stood at the very top of the ladder, I have to walk you back down and tell you the truth about the whole climb, because there are 4 things about these levels that are not what they appear. Go back through every single level we climbed and look at what actually improved. At $1,000, you had no control. Other people owned your time and your stress. At $10,000, you bought a little breathing room. At $100,000, a little independence. At $1 million, real security. At $10 million, near total freedom. Every rung bought the same thing, not stuff control. The ability to decide your own day, absorb a shock, walk away from what you don't want, and say no without fear. This isn't a nice idea. It's what the research actually finds. When scientists dug into why money and happiness are linked at all, the single strongest factor explaining roughly 3/4 of it was a person's sense of control over their own life. That's the real product being sold at every level of this ladder, not luxury, autonomy. And it reframes the whole thing. The cars and the houses you were picturing at the top, they were never the point. They're just what control looks like once you have a lot of it, which sets up the honest part, because if what you're really buying is control, then the numbers on this ladder are far more slippery than they first appear. Here's where we do the thing this channel always does. 4 corrections, and they matter. First, every number in this video was net worth, not cash. This is the mistake almost everyone makes. A millionaire does not have $1 million in spending money. They have a house, a retirement account, maybe a business assets that are mostly locked up. Net worth is not a bank balance, and confusing the two is how people who should feel rich still feel stretched. Second, the top of this ladder is far rarer than the internet makes it feel. $10 million is inside the top 1%. Almost no one you know will ever reach it, and that is completely normal. If these videos make you feel like you're failing because you're not there, understand the game is rigged to make everyone feel behind. You are not behind. The measuring stick is broken. Third, and this surprises people, the old idea that happiness flatlines at $75,000 a year has actually been overturned by newer research. For most people, more money does keep improving life, but with brutally diminishing returns. Going from $10,000 to $100,000 can transform your life. Going from $5 million to $10 million barely moves the needle on how you actually feel day to day. Each doubling adds less than the last. And there's a fourth, harder truth, buried in the same research. For the people who are already unhappy dealing with heartbreak, grief, loneliness, depression, the benefits of money mostly stop around $100,000 a year. Because money can buy control over your circumstances, it cannot buy control over everything. It is very good at solving the problems that money causes and surprisingly useless against the ones it doesn't. So here's what all 7 levels were really telling us, and it flips the entire premise of this video. At the very start, I told you the jump that changes your life the most is nowhere near the top. Now you can see it. Everyone points at the top of the ladder. 10 million. The private world. And it's real. But by the time you reach it, each new dollar is barely changing how your life feels. The diminishing returns have flattened everything out. The jump that changes your life the most is at the bottom. It's the climb from $1,000 to a real cushion. From lying awake in fear to sleeping through the night. From no control to a little control. That first stretch of the ladder doesn't just add comfort, it removes fear. And removing fear is a bigger change to a human life than adding a second home ever will be. The person who claws their way from surviving to secure has traveled a greater distance than the person who goes from 5 million to 10, even though the second one moved 100 times more money. So the question was never, how do I reach the top? The real question is, which level are you climbing away from, and how fast can you buy back your control? On this channel, we met a janitor named Ronald Red, who climbed this entire ladder in total silence, a few dollars at a time, and reached the very top without a single person noticing. He didn't chase the fantasy at the top. He just kept taking the next rung for 60 years. Because the fortune was never really about the $10 million. It was about buying back your life one rung, one small brave decision at a time. And the first rung, the one almost nobody celebrates, is the one that changes everything. Start there. Start climbing away from the fear. The rest of the ladder takes care of itself. Next time on this channel, we're breaking down another quiet truth about wealth, the one that decides who reaches the top of that ladder and who slides back down.